Hello there. Todd Hido's work is just ordinary. He isn't traveling to Mongolia to photograph their famous double-humped camel. He's finding ways to photograph scenes that are familiar to us all. The thing that really gets me about his work is the way he's able to transform the commonplace into the extraordinary. He manages to make it into something that is visually enticing, mysterious, and intensely personal. His scenes are suburban and banal. Imagine if someone said to you that they've seen this photographer's work and he photographs houses at night and he does interiors and he shoots landscape through his windscreen and sometimes he photographs models in hotel rooms. You're probably not going to get a surge of adrenaline and rush out and look at it. Hido is a perfect example to illustrate the lemon lemonade cliche. But he isn't just a one-idea wonder. He's managed to transform a number of familiar topics into something that is his.
Hey man,
I'm a guy who likes to work on my car.
Hido's work is evocative and it appeals to a wide audience because he's dealing with universal themes like memory, hope, loss, loneliness. His mastery is his ability to instill these emotions into his photographs. So the question is, how does he manage to do this? The first step is hard work. He seems to have a very well-developed work ethic. He doesn't stop after taking a few decent images. He's out there doing his thing as often as he can.
So I'm addicted to photography, and I'm addicted to that high that you get when you get one, you're like, oh my God, that's so good.
Doing is the way that one develops a theme. Of course, you need to be able to work through what it is that you want to express, but you can only begin to develop a personal vision by seeing what works and what doesn't. Now that we are familiar with his images of houses at night, we can all head out and take pictures on a misty evening that look like his. But all that we would be doing is copying his idea. The creative process is often as grinding as digging a ditch in the rain. You need to access words that seem to have gone out of fashion, like diligence and perseverance.
You're standing on the outside looking in, and the lights come on and it's almost like what's inside seeps to the outside. There's always curtains and stuff, but it's just the idea that you're standing on the outside and you're looking into somebody's life. So just the mystery of night is something that's intriguing to me. The way the light is it's very dramatic and very different, and almost kind of the way street lights cast shadows on homes. It's almost like some of them are spotlit.
When one is driving around looking for something to photograph, there's a particular type of doubt or even loneliness that creeps in. Thoughts like, this is hopeless, or who am I to think I can create something new, or everything has been done before. And eventually one comes to the most undermining of all thoughts. Maybe I'd rather go home and watch Netflix. Hido must have been determined to find a path through his inertia in order to discover a unique avenue for self-expression. Robert Adams covered exactly the same subject, suburban homes at night, in his series Summer Nights Walking. But they differ greatly and explore distinctive ideas. So it isn't about the subject matter, it's about what the photographer brings personally to the theme. So far in this discussion, we've established that Hido has worked really hard at creating his own style. But how exactly has he developed this style? Luckily for us, he's generous with his knowledge and happily shares the details of his practice. He doesn't see himself as a documentary photographer. He's looking for scenes that remind him of events or feelings that he's experienced in his life. This is a very different approach to, say, a street photographer who's looking about for interesting things, and then through their pictures, they are usually reflecting on a particular societal topic. Hido, on the other hand, is saying, this scene makes me feel like such and such, and I'm going to convey that feeling to you. This statement is important to understanding his work. We as viewers are experiencing an almost dreamlike version of what's going on in his head. The images are often disturbing because he's communicating something that comes from the internal. And like all of us, his thoughts and memories are inevitably a bit dark and twisty. If you think about one of those dreams that stick with you for days, they often appear in slow motion and you can hear that creepy music building in the background. That's the kind of thing he's showing us. He shoots these landscapes through his windscreen on rainy days. The world becomes distorted and partially out of focus. So by limiting the areas of focus within the frame, he's suggesting that there's something mysterious for us to discover. The lack of a definite centerpiece makes us as viewers want to get more informed. So we are forced to look deeper and delve into the image.
This is Robert Frank from Butte, Montana, from the Americans. And what I love about this, and I think that this is at play in my work heavily, is that he's shooting through those curtains, and like me shooting through the windshield is like the curtains in this picture. Like you feel the presence of somebody on that, holding the camera.
After a long period of focusing on the exteriors of people's lives, he started to include interiors in his work. This isn't another subject, it's just a continuation. In both cases, he's creating scenes that spark an emotional response. With these images, you become acutely aware of the textures of surfaces. His interiors are more demanding of our attention. It's only when you dissect his photographs and really examine the details that one recognizes that they aren't just arbitrary scenes. He's making multiple decisions about what to include, what to leave out, and where to stand, etc. He's also relying on the guidance of his instinct and subconscious. When one is taking pictures, there isn't time to think everything through, so he allows himself to feel and react to the nuances. Like this ruffled bed, it immediately tells us that someone or more than one person has been there. And we begin to wonder, what were the circumstances that led up to the pillows being arranged in this particular way? German philosopher Walter Benjamin said once that Eugene Aget photographed Paris like it was a crime scene. And Hido seems to do exactly the same thing with his interiors. He's looking for clues that would tell him and his viewers about who's been there and what might have happened. A lot of his decision-making happens after he has taken the pictures. His printing process involves a lot of choices around things like which hue he would like to emphasize. We are programmed to attach moods and meanings to different colors. Warmer tones generally make us feel safe and comfortable, while blues evoke feelings of cold and isolation. Fluorescent green often makes us feel ill. It's strange that almost all hospitals use fluorescent lighting. I sense that there's a conspiracy theory lurking there. After interiors, the natural progression for Hido was to include people in his work. In the same way that details are so important in his interiors, small gestures become the gateway to understanding his people shots. Even though Hido's portraits have a natural feel, he sets up these scenes using models. In this way, his approach might seem similar to photographer Erwin Olive, who I spoke about in a previous video. I'll leave a link at the end. Their photographs are very different, but there are instances where one becomes aware of similarities.
Like just lean back, like from there. Yeah, like that. That's good.
She doesn't pose a lot. She's sort of natural and comfortable.
Hido is telling his story rather than trying to capture the essence of the sitter. Of course, for the picture to work, the subject and the photographer have to build a moment that is authentically reflective of the mood or feelings that Hido wants. This is where the notion of truly defining a portrait becomes complicated. Do portraits reflect the subject, the photographer, an idea, a feeling, or all of the above?
You know, there's certainly an aspect of fiction that comes into play when you're talking about making a work like this. I think that this work, for one, you know, is the first time I've ever made something that's so personal, but at the same time, it's about many more things that I've seen or heard or, you know, or happened.
Hido says that some of the pictures relate to his traumatic childhood, and his models are stand-ins for the people that he's known in his past. He's creating a fiction, but what it reflects is real. He believes that whether a photograph is true or not is irrelevant. For him, the important aspect of the process is the artistic communication. There's a lot to be learned from Hido's work, so I hope that you found something of value in this video. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
The reason your work is so unsettling is because it actually is real. Photography is a profound corner that sits in between literature and film. I just simply want to hover in that zone of like that special place where photography can only be. Something about that power of suggestion and the limitations that make photography magic. I think for me, there's nothing I specifically want to tell them, but there's, I guess, things that I want to suggest.